said.
Hi everyone, I'm Sahra Ahmed and I'm a youth worker in Sheffield and I work for EYP, Asthma Youth Project in Bengrave and Brumhall Youth Girls, Brumhall Girls Youth Group in Brumhall. At the start of the pandemic, I wanted to start a book club that engaged with all the girls that I engage with across the city so that they could participate in. I was keen to get the girls across the city to do something together and read books from authors that look like them to explore literature in a new positive way. I myself am not an avid reader, but I learned about Marilyn Blackman when I was younger because my sister loves to read. Um, and I love the concept of noughts and crosses. This was the only Black author I became aware of, along with Maya Angelou. My favourite book is Americana, and as the author beautifully put, it's dangerous to tell a single story. The book club will open doors to a world where the girls can explore literature in ways that tells their stories through characters that look like them. Um, in ways, in ways that I related to Americana, I hope the books that we read in our book club, Lit Collective, gives the opportunity for girls of colour to be inspired, but also relate to authors and poets who look like them. This 3-day event festival is to make literature more than a single narrative, to see relationship conversations that can be had through a story. It's to explore the minds of powerful coloured women and listen to their stories through their eyes. Each part of this festival was created with young women of colour from across the city of Sheffield, and I hope every single young woman of colour can feel connected to literature in ways I never got the opportunity to while I was young. Aish, do you want to introduce yourself?
How do I follow from that? That was beautifully said. So I'm Aisha and I'm an English teacher in Sheffield. I'm a keen reader, but obviously sometimes given the job that I do, it's finding the times and the moments to get involved, pick up a book, and just read them. But the blessing of the pandemic has been that I've got really a lot of time to just pick up a book and start reading. So the book club came at the perfect time for me to be able to support it. Reading is something I'm so passionate about. I'm really big on. I remember it was some point this year one of my colleagues had spoken about the literacy gap and how people in Stockton upon Stockton on Tees, where there's the highest rates of illiteracy, and I think it was somewhere around North Oxford where there's the fewest illiterate people in the country. That there's a 26-year age life expectancy gap between those people, and they were talking about that the quality of life of someone is diminished if they don't have access to good reading, the vocab that's necessary. They're denied good jobs, they're denied opportunities in life because they're not so well versed. So for me, reading is something that can really, really change lives. And from just an educational perspective, it's something that makes young people be able to access the exams. The exams are very elitist, and children have to read. Unfortunately, the canon is very white. There's not much diversity in the curriculum to cover Black authors, Black British authors, a range of authors, or Black women. We study 15 poems in one of the 2 clusters, and of the 15 poem, there's one woman of colour, and it's Imtiaz Darker. And the poem that they have, Tissue, though lovely, it's so complicated and not accessible or relatable for the kids that they don't enjoy it. So the ones where we do get the opportunity to show off, Black voices, Asian voices, just women of colour in general, having a voice in the 15 poems, it's the most mind-boggling poem for young kids that they just can't be bothered. So people's young girls, their relationship with literature, especially girls of colour, is there's just no representation. So they don't believe that there's many authors for us out there. Mallory Blackman is one, but she's one that most people know of, but the rest no one really knows of. So it's through opportunities like this that we're providing young girls more access to women that look like them, who've sort of had the same life experiences, similar life experiences, and hopefully that they can take away life lessons from these books, because there's so much little wisdoms in the books that we're covering. And I know from me reading it as an adult, I've really enjoyed it, but I thought if I had a book like this when I was younger, I would definitely get into reading when I was younger. I only really got into it when I was over my 20s, but as a teenager, couldn't get me to pick up a book because I just had no connection to any of the books that I read. So this is brilliant for the young girls, especially in the time that we're living in, with sort of Black voices being amplified. But that's my piece,
yeah. Amal, what made you join the book club?
So I thought I used to like reading a lot, and then I thought, why not? It's just to let me go back into it, because I never really used to have the time. But especially that the book club has been, because it was introduced during the lockdown, I had the time to get back into reading. And with reading Galdem, there was just, when I used to read books, I used to just read my Roald Dahl, Jacqueline Wilson. There wasn't that many. I couldn't really relate to it, but I just enjoyed reading the books. However, with these books, I can actually relate to it. And even though like some of the stories, they're sad, at the end they have like little wisdoms, like Aisha said, which you can take away from. And it's just nice to hear as well, because they are like real life stories as well. Like it's happened to people before, and you can sort of relate as well. So yeah.
Emily, what made you want to join the Lit Collective as well?
So I'm Emily, and I am a community youth worker in Broome Hall, work with Sahra, and I also facilitate creative workshops with young people, mainly around Sheffield and South Yorkshire. So when Sahra mentioned the book club to me, I was really keen, partially because I like reading myself, but also because I think it's just so important as a white person to just make sure that if you're enjoying something like reading, or to be honest, whatever hobby you do or whatever entertainment you consume, that's representative of the society and the community that you're in and that you work within. And I think that obviously doesn't happen enough. And like Aisha said, the curriculum is incredibly white. And there's this idea, I think, that, genius is sort of this innate quality that surprisingly many white old men are born with. And it's like this idea that they're born geniuses, and that's why we all, we need to read all these historic, and obviously, it's great, there's lots of white men who've written great books, but there are also lots of other people who've written really great books, and they're not shouted about in the same way. And I think if you're working with young people of colour, and even young white people, it's really important that they read these texts, they understand other people's experiences, they sort of have their eyes open to things that maybe they wouldn't otherwise. And I just think like education is such an important tool, that if we start with people who are young, reading all this stuff and taking in these stories and experiencing it and immersing themselves in these great books, and that can only be a good thing. And just even in like my own practice, I hate saying that, but in my own practice, making sure that if I do a workshop that, examples that I use and references that I talk about and books that I refer to are as diverse as possible, because when you've got a group of kids that you're working with, you don't want any of them to feel like what you're talking about isn't relatable to them. So yeah, I just thought it was really timely, really important, and thank you, Sahra, for asking me and our kids to be involved.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're involved. So I hope you all stay tuned for every part of this festival and enjoy every second of it. This was all put together by the young people in Sheffield, mainly in Broome Hall and in Burngreave. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.